follow us on Instagram, please tag us. I also run a prediction market for clinical trials. So if people are interested in prediction markets for Annabelle, can you go tell this guy outside to raise the volume of the microphone? Awesome. If you guys are interested in prediction markets for clinical trials, we're hiring. So basically, imagine you have a poly market for science. So if instead of betting on sports or betting on politics, you're interested in betting on science and which drugs are going to be successful, you should come work with us. It's called Endpoint Arena. You can download our app. We're hiring, so if you want to submit an application form here, we have a small team, but we're looking to grow. And if you have partners. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to have Julius coming in from San Francisco. And Julius, we've been friends for a while. I don't remember when we met, but...
I know when.
What?
I know when.
Oh, you do? Okay. Okay, so we've been friends for a while, and I was in San Francisco recently, and he was giving a great talk on peptides in San Francisco, and I said, hey, I know people have been curious about peptides in New York forever. Why don't you come out to give a talk on Peptides 101? So without further ado, Julius.
Woo! Thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's great to be here. Actually, we met at a DeSci event that you hosted with the founder of Enhance.com, with Andrew, in 2024.
Yes, I remember.
And now I'm back for a talk about enhancement as well. It's kind of cool.
Full circle. So anyone here can be a speaker and it's down the road.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, Peptides 101. I'll just click spacebar, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Or you'll hit the left arrow key.
Great. Yeah, amazing. So first of all, who's this person standing in front of you? Hi, I'm Julius. Super stoked to be here. I've done a couple of things in the space, and the dots connect only looking backwards, so it's really good to now talk about peptides here in New York. A couple of things about me. I founded the California Peptide Club with the intention to not start a wellness community or a biohacking club, but to bring together the researchers, founders, and the ones that want to be educated on the peptide space in San Francisco. And I think SF is like, the people we bring together are cool people like you, bunch of weirdos as well, and then a bunch of cool doctors. It's a really good crowd. And then I also run AGI House, which is, you could say, a hacker house, also in the stereotypical San Francisco sense, which you might have experienced. But it's a nice one. And we've had 10 unicorn founders live with us. The lovable founder lived with us. Perplexity was started at AGI House. So if you ever find yourself wanting to invest in AI startups or get involved and are in San Francisco, reach out to me. Then, of course, if I'm from San Francisco, I'm a longevity founder, formerly. And of course, I'm also an AI founder. That's just how it works over there, right? I actually sold that AI company and shut down the longevity company. And I'm talking to you about longevity. I'm not sure that's a good sign. But apart from that, I've also done the stuff that your boomer parents might care about. I'm a sperm racer. As of Sunday. Yeah, it seems like VCs like throwing $10 million at 17-year-olds to build a new sport. And yes, I raced my sperm.
Did you win?
I lost, tragically. But I had the bigger load. Yeah. So, and then again, if you have boomer parents and they care for logos, I've worked with a cool longevity startup on the founding team. It's called Superpower. And then I've done the boring stuff, and I went to a cool school here in the US. So that's that. What's the California Peptide Club? You can see it here. I want to bring more of that spirit that I just described to New York. So tonight is going to be the night where I'm going to have a QR code, and you can scan it to also join a WhatsApp group chat called the New York Peptide Club. And who knows, maybe that's leading somewhere. And maybe I can find some people here who'd like to build that with me in the city. We've hosted several gatherings in San Francisco overlooking the bay. And out of that came business collaborations, trials and studies were funded, co-founders met. So I hope New York is ripe for the same notion. All right, peptide prime time. What are we talking about? I'm going to grab this. So, first of all, what are peptides, right? I guess like many of you wouldn't be able to answer that question, and that's great, because that's why we're here. Second of all, why are peptides so relevant right now? Like you see them everywhere, like soccer moms post about them on TikTok, and then your best friend tells you to get on Reddit, and you're like, dude, what's Reddit, right? Then we have the history, how did we get there? I'll like make this quite brief, because there's two more things that are way more important also to you, which is, how do I get the stuff that doesn't kill me? And what is the stuff I should get to look beautiful, feel great, and live forever? And then, if we have time, I actually might show how to do the injection, because I know many are afraid of needles and think it's kind of weird. Many of my friends whom I've, I guess, helped through that process feel so empowered afterwards. It's like, fuck, I can hack myself. It's actually quite cool once you do it once, but I know that many are here quite skeptical. So, let's start with a quick show of hands. Who here has injected themselves with peptides? Hands up. Okay, that's like maybe 20%, I'd say. And keep your hands up. And keep your hands only up if you've injected yourself with research-use only peptides. That's almost all of you. That's great. It means you're not type 2 diabetes. That's really good. All right. So, what is a peptide? I zoomed in here awkwardly because that you can see it. You might know all these peptides from your whey protein or collagen protein, where it says L-leucine, L-isoleucine, and so on. Those amino acids are the building blocks of peptides. So you are eating amino acids already every day in your protein powder where you can see them, if you have a piece of chicken breast as well. So they are the building blocks of life and the building blocks of protein and peptides. Peptides, after all, are just short proteins, right? 2 to 50 amino acids stacked together are called a peptide. Here are some examples. They're very short ones. Those are amino acids like glycine, which you might take for sleeping better, right? And then there are peptides like collagen, which you can actually just eat and digest. And surprisingly, it works pretty well. We can talk about the gut-blood barrier later and why eating peptides usually doesn't work, but for collagen it's a famous one. And then there's retatrutide, which is the most recent GLP. That looks a bit more complicated, as you can tell. Now, 40 is a magic number in the peptide space, because after all, everything is driven by pharma incentives. That's how it works. And you might, because one of the questions I get all the time is like, hey, why is BPC 157 not FDA approved? We'll get there in a moment, but the number 40 is important because once you have more than 40 amino acids chained together, it's called a biologic by patent law, and you have way more protective patent rights applying. Meaning, I think the patent then holds for about 12 years, and you can extend it. And right now, Eli Lilly, the manufacturer of retatrutide, is actually in court to debate that their 39 long amino acid peptide retatrutide classifies as a biologic because it has like 2 more complex strains of amino acids that like technically are 2 peptides, so it should be 41. And so yeah, they're investing millions into getting that lawsuit settled. So 40 is important, remember. Insulin is the first peptide, possibly, that you might have heard of, and is by today's standards not a peptide anymore. But I'm putting this here to demonstrate that peptides have been around forever, have been consumed forever, and when people get excited about peptides, it's mostly about injecting themselves with a specific subgroup of like 10 to 20 peptides. That's like the most we usually talk about. But there's also other ways of taking peptides. Injection is the most famous one. Subcutaneously is preferred, meaning under your skin, ideally in an area where you have a bit of fat. And that means that roughly 60 to 70% of the peptide is actually systemically relevant. You could do it in your vein, and then it's like 80, 90% systemically relevant, but it comes with so many risks that I would strongly discourage anyone from trying that. Also, by the way, I'm not a doctor, although it would make my father very proud, but I'm not. And so this is no medical advice, nothing I'm saying here. And if I say you should or whatever, just black that out mentally, okay? I never said that. So second way, oral GLPs are very difficult, and we just learned why already. After all, peptides are just made from amino acids, and your body is insanely good at breaking them down. So it breaks down the amino acids, and all of a sudden you just have a bunch of amino acids in your gut, right? And they don't actually find the targeted receptor that they're supposed to bind to anymore. Now, Big Pharma is smart, and Big Pharma knows, well, taking a pill is so much easier. And they've developed a specific mechanism called SNAC that allows you to eat or orally take a GLP. More on that later. Then there's the Russian peptides, C-Lank and C-Max. Those are focused peptides. I guess many of you work in very demanding jobs, right? It's a fast city, and you just want to lock the fuck in sometimes. And for that, you can take C-Lank and C-Max. They come in nasal sprays. One of these bottles costs like $60. And for many of them, and many of my friends, they work quite well. Now, would I recommend starting with like nicotine, caffeine? Yes, probably yeah. This is a bit higher up the, I guess, stack and protocol. And then there's topical solutions. This is maybe something for the women in the room. Has anyone of you ever bought like a copper or GHKCU specific? Yeah? See a couple of hands, couple of nods. Also by some guys. That's cool. Yeah, so they've been around forever, right? GHKCU specifically helps the body naturally produce more collagen, which, as everyone knows, is good for skin and nail health and hair health. Let's talk a bit more about the history of the actual injectable peptides and about the zeitgeist. Before we go there, people ask me, hey, Julius, I want to lose weight or I want to get jacked. Should I get on peptides? The answer is it depends, right? It really depends on where you are. I'd say ideally fix the basics first. But if you have, if you suffer from actual, like maybe chronic sleep problems, you might want to try Penelion and Epithalon if nothing else works. So it really depends. But I just remember this diagram generally. Like, if you get your sleep, nutrition, training, movement, and your social circle right, you really don't need peptides in most cases. I'm just saying that because, it's the last 10%, last 1% even. So what's happening? All the big telehealth companies are launching peptides. Hims is launching the pill in collaboration with Novo Nordisk. My good friend Max is launching a peptide brand under superpower.com. Peptides now get sold in Los Angeles on the streets for $500. And what does it even mean? Like, now offering retatrutide, then doctors receive individual warning letters by the medical boards telling them not to prescribe, for example, BPC, even if it was renamed to something else. So it's a mess right now. And it's also very exciting. And there's lots of opportunity for entrepreneurs, researchers, and individuals. Left picture is me. I actually once slightly overdosed on retatrutide. So if you take a GLP-1, it inhibits you, it slows down gastric emptying. And then I had a fatty meal the same night, full of cheese, and it couldn't go out one way, so it had to go out the other way. Like, it was a horrible night, puked 7 times, and then had to get a double IV the next day because I was so dehydrated. So if you go on GLP-1s, be careful, slowly ramp up the amount, and eat small dosages. Like, it's not a panacea of everything. Another risk that you see is that if you buy it from the research use only sites, sometimes the certificate of analysis might show there's 0% peptide found. Great. There's another example in which someone bought retatrutide and realized, I'm getting quite tanned. I mean, it looks nice, but what's going on here? And it turned out that the sample was melatonin 2, which makes you more tan. So you get a different peptide, right? Now, generally speaking, the way business incentives works is any business also prefers to provide good quality peptides, because otherwise they go out of business. So in general, like, even the gray and research use only market is rather clean, but there are still bad actors. So why aren't peptides commercialized? Why is there no one say, patenting BPC and making use of that patent? Well, there actually is a patent on BPC, and it's for sale. There's a website you can actually buy it. But why is no one buying it? Because the patent won't help you. If you just attach some random molecule to BPC that does the exact same thing in your body, it's going to be classified as a new molecule, right? So pharma's not incentivized to even invest in any clinical trials if there's not like a significant commercial outcome afterwards. And there's no patent protection, as we just talked about, especially on the short peptide chains. Remember the biologics from earlier. And so it's a bit of an interesting situation. And it goes as far as that Big Pharma is launching campaigns against compounding pharmacies. We'll talk about this later, but they of course want to protect their kingdomship by all means. Let's talk about the actual regulatory landscape. And I'm going to show you a diagram with some of the actors that are part of the whole peptide ecosystem that are making sure that you can get your compound to various degrees of quality. And bear with me, I'm going to walk you through it. Who here has heard of Chinese peptides? It's a thing, right? And so what does Chinese peptides mean? Is that bad? Like, is China all bad? Was Trump right after all? We'll find out. The vast majority of peptides right now, outside the facilities that Big Pharma owns, are produced in China. Sure, there's some in India, and there's some stuff happening in Estonia, and friends of mine are building US-made manufacturing plants that do everything from scratch. But it's very nascent, and for decades, the Chinese manufacturers have optimized the hell out of the process and are the best in the world at producing it. And that's why they're importing most of it to the US. Now, there's different buyers from these facilities, right? There's the research use only gray market. And research use only means that these companies also sell peptides that are currently not FDA approved, such as BPC 157, tesamorelin, epithalin, GHKCU even, right? And they source the peptides from a Chinese manufacturer, which itself might source it from another lab, which is interesting, and then resell it. And all they do is they might get the API, they might do like another cleaning process here in the US, and then they just bottle it into tiny vials. And let me show you one of these tiny vials. And you get that delivered in lyophilized powder. Lyophilized meaning not liquid, basically. And so that's the way number one. And usually these websites have like established relationships with the Chinese manufacturer or know someone who knows someone. Recently, Peptide Sciences, the largest manufacturer or largest RUO website, voluntarily shut down because the FDA indeed increases scrutiny and has been more aggressive on that front. But for years, you could send crypto money or like Venmo or Zelle an account randomly and then hope your peptides would arrive miraculously. And this is why it's called gray market, because for you, it's not a crime, it's not illegal. But on the website, it can never say that this is for human consumption. In fact, it often explicitly states not for human consumption or for research use only. But everyone knows, you're not running your cell cultures at home. This is like clearly for human consumption after all. And so yeah, that's the gray market Amazon. And then we have compounding pharmacies. Now, what are compounding pharmacies? Actually, compounding pharmacies were the first kind of pharmacies that were ever established. Like the main job of a pharmacist used to be get a prescription from a doctor and then mix the ingredients together in the pharmacy, right? And it's only through mass manufacturing that we don't have to do this anymore as much. They still do that at times, right? I think it makes like 10 to 20% of all medications that are handed out. It's getting smaller. And so what a compounding pharmacy does, it has the resources and the ability to also compound peptides from the active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is like, the short version is API. Not the API from, for all the engineers here, but API for active pharmaceutical ingredient. But like the question is, where do they get the API from? Where do they get these ingredients from? And the answer is also from China, right? So people are like, oh, I'm getting my stuff from a compounding pharmacy, and it's like, yeah, great, it's the exact same lab that is delivering to these compounding pharmacies, possibly. There's a bit of a caveat here. Why? Because the FDA has actually greenlit originally 7, now down to 5 labs that passed certain quality standards in China, which is great, right? You might wonder, why don't more of the manufacturers apply for that? This is kind of crazy. And the reasons are twofold, and maybe they're 3, 4-fold, but I know of 2 reasons. A, there's a language barrier and a process barrier. And B, the manufacturer actually doesn't make that much money creating peptides. 99% of the economics happen here in the US when people upsell the peptide, which is why if you get the peptide directly from China and find a Discord server and have a friend who speaks Chinese, or you Google Translate your way into that, you can get peptides for 10%, 5% the price you'd pay through a research use only website. So there's a risk pricing trade-off in case you want to buy some. Now, compounding pharmacies only sell the peptides, or not only, mainly sell the peptides that you can get with a prescription from a doctor. There's also caveats to that, but let's stick with the normal case. And then there's, of course, Big Pharma. Eli Lilly earlier this year announced that they're investing $3.5 billion into, I think, building 4 new facilities to produce their blockbuster drug, retatrutide. And yet I've heard that they're getting some of the raw materials from China. Now, I don't know if it's true, but someone I very much trust and who's been on Huberman recently claimed that. So it's quite interesting how the supply chain works here. And then also, if you buy it from Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly directly, you also need a prescription. How do you get one? Well, telehealth is a big thing. Novo Nordisk has their own pharmacy. A doctor that you trust can give you a prescription, usually. Or you just cash pay, and it's actually affordable, especially for the GLPs. If you just want to maybe shed off 5 pounds, it's $349 a month for semaglutide, which is okay, considering it was once way more. That's nothing you have to remember. Just if you hear the word 503A, those are the small compounding pharmacies that everyone in M&A and PA is looking at right now. PE is looking at right now, oh, is this the new HVAC play? Can we consolidate compounding pharmacies and make a lot of money here? So that's the 503A, the traditional compounding pharmacy. And then the larger ones are insanely capital intensive to set up. But yeah, people are also building these. Now, Eli Lilly wants absolute retatrutide supremacy. Quick reminder, retatrutide is the best weight loss drug the world has ever seen. You might know Ozempic, Wegovy, first generation, Mounjaro, Zepbound, second generation, and now retatrutide is the new brand. Went through phase 3 trials, insanely successful, right? And we get to learn about more and more positive side effects by the day. And so yes, they want to reclassify TERS and Reta as biologics, and are currently in court to do that. Things are changing. So this is actually the most interesting time ever in this space, because we've seen the accelerated, zeitgeist, people talking about peptides. And on July 23rd, these 4 peptides, and on July 24th, the other 3 peptides, amongst others, are getting reconsidered to actually move out of the category 2 list. Now, what's category 2? So the FDA has different categories for substances, molecules, anything you can basically take. And category 2 means do not compound. Just don't, not allowed, right? Category 3 means we don't have enough data on this and we're not considering it. And I think even things like rosemary are in category 3. It's like a very randomness, but the category 2 is quite concrete. And so in a good case for us, they're going to announce on their live stream, so you can watch this live or at least get live notifications. They're going to say, hey, compounding pharmacies can compound this again, and then you can get all these peptides in a short period of time without going through research use only websites. There's going to be public comment. It's going to take some months to get the actual proposed new framework in place, 3 to 12 months depending, and then hopefully compounders can actually start making them quite soon. That doesn't make it an FDA-approved drug. Now, is that a problem? Not really. For many of these peptides, like BPC-157, we have years and decades of anecdotal data with literally 0 adverse side events reported. And some of you might know about, especially the guys might know about enclomiphene, or clomid, or clomiphene, right? And clomiphene was FDA approved, and clomiphene was never, because it's part of clomiphene. So only because something is not FDA approved, it doesn't make it a bad substance. But still, keep that in mind. Now, let's talk a bit more about where to actually get the peptides from. And I'm going to give you a bit of a step-by-step guide. So the GLPs you usually get in pens, meaning they are reconstituted in water already. Whereas the compounding pharmacies will send you little vials, and you have to compound that yourself. And I brought some stuff, as I mentioned, to do that with you guys later. Now, when you're finding a gray market provider, you want to check for a couple of things. Is this the right peptide? Is it not melatonin 2? Jeez. Is it pure? That's the most important one, right? There's all sorts of other stuff you could have in there. There's certain salts that are actually most dangerous. People usually know about endotoxins, heavy metals of that sort, that are bad, but not as bad as those salts. And it could also be like anything else. When it says 98% purity, it means the 2% could be literally anything. And then potency. Is this the right amount? Check out FINRIC. We're going to look at that in a moment to see which providers have good scores. And here you can see them, already listed for different peptides. How convenient. And the data is actually really, really promising. So what this means is on this axis you have purity, and on this axis you have the measured amount of the label, and then you can see the samples for every single manufacturer. And the median plus a lot of times the 25th to 75th percentile are within these ranges. So that is really promising for compound for these peptides. Now, a website that I'm right now getting my stuff from is called Peptime, peptime.com. I've known the founder, so in case anyone is interested in talking to them, we're also doing a collaboration with our club right now. You can probably get some percentages off. Talk to me, and we can make that work. And I can share like a code later as well. Now, if you want to actually read a certificate of analysis yourself, or even want to send a sample from that Chinese website you found, and you got it delivered, you know how to read the actual outputs. So this is going to be quick, but here are the 3 things. You have the purity, which in the result here is 98.9%. The question is whether it stays in the 20% range, between 90 to 110%, which is also the case here. And then the question is it the mass as recorded? And we can't see what the actual mass was supposed to be, but I guess it's about 60 milligrams or 70 milligrams. Yeah, let's talk a bit more about that idea of sourcing directly from China. Because I did it. I tried a lot of different suppliers to find what's actually good in this space. I care about it from like a scientific standpoint, but also from a cost-saving standpoint. Easily, if you have a peptide stack, you can spend up to $600, $700 or more per month, which is like just not sustainable long term. These Discord servers are there. I can also send around a link later if that's helpful. But that's what happened to me. I paid them, I think like $300, and they told me, oh, our account got banned. We didn't receive your money. And then my Chinese roommate had to go on like a negotiation war with them to get them to still send us the peptides. Isn't that crazy? I thought it was lost, but I told them, I run this cool club. Let's turn this into a partnership. And yeah, I'm waiting to hear back on the results. But no, we got the peptides, and they're just getting tested now. Also, this is 100% AI generated. Like, there's no way Anna from China looks like that. So, quick overview, if you want to remind yourself or take a photo of this, or if friends ask, during the next Run Club meeting or in the wine bar, hey, what are peptides and are they risky? This is a summary. There's one more thing I didn't mention before, and it has a place here. It's bacteriostatic water. What does that even mean? It's the liquid you use to basically take that lyophilized powder and turn it into something injectable. And can't you just use tap water? No. That happened during a longevity conference, I want to say like a year or two ago, and 2 people had to get delivered to the hospital. The conference had a terrible reputation since, so it's really dangerous. What's special about that water is that it has 0.9% benzyl alcohol, which prevents new bacteria from growing. Now, the wording here is important because it doesn't necessarily prevent existing bacteria from staying alive. So you want to get good bacteriostatic water. Not any. Risks are not that high, but after all, it could be the same stuff as you find in the peptide itself. And so Pfizer, the pharma company, has this brand, which you can recognize by it having a QR code. A QR code on the back of the vial. And it's tiny. Like, you wouldn't be able to see it from here, but there's a tiny QR code here. And that's how you know it's good backwater. Amazon took this down. You can't buy this on Amazon anymore. It's very fascinating how the e-commerce space is evolving. Then you also need alcohol swabs, a sterilized syringe. Please always make sure it's sterile and you wipe off the injection area before you do it. I'll show later. And some peptides just have side effects. Like on melatonin too, you'll get very angry and aggressive and very horny. Now that's something you might embrace. Like if you step into your, main character arc, like, let's go. But not sure that's sustainable. All right, now I know many of you are here probably here to also learn what can I actually take and why, and what should I look into? And so we're mainly going to look into 3 a bit more closely, which are the GLPs, just because they're everywhere, and by in terms of market size, orders of magnitude larger than the research use only segment. For some time, I think they were larger than the entire AI market. It has changed now. But research use only peptides are only around $200 to $300, $400 million in the US, which is tiny in comparison to the $100 billion to $1 trillion industry of GLPs. Secondly, we're going to look into BPC-157, which I guess is the second most famous peptide and used for tendon healing. Interesting story there. And then we're going to look into GHKCU quickly, as well as into a few others. And then, if you want to learn more about different ones, we can talk after we do a peptide 201. Before you start getting on a protocol, your doctor, not me, would recommend you to get blood work done, so you understand what's actually going on. For example, if your growth hormone already is elevated, you might not want to, get on a growth hormone. For example, if your inflammation is high, it might actually be quite helpful to look into that, where it's coming from. Is this a prolactin issue? Could you lower it with BPC systemically? And so do that with someone who understands peptides. Now, I know many of you are going to go out there and just experiment yourself. And I personally did that. So you're welcome to do whatever you want. Those are the different categories many people put this into. It's not rigid, but like, what do peptides do? Well, they help with growth hormone, which is recovery, and in its extreme, also muscle growth, tissue repair, like BPC, TB500. Those two together, you might know as the Wolverine stack, if that rings a bell. With GHKCU, it's called the glow stack, if that rings a bell. And with KPV, it's called the clo stack. So, people are selling these stacks together, and they work surprisingly well together. Then MOTC and SS31 are mitochondrial peptides. Then you have some for the immune system and sexual system, like thymosin alpha-1. I know many people who travel a lot, and they just can't afford to get busy. They're too busy to get sick, so they just take a bit of thymosin alpha-1, boost their immune system before they get on the plane. So it's also a bit of an insurance. You basically buy insurance, and it helps you fight upcoming disease quicker. And then we, of course, have the GLP-1s, as listed down here. So, I know many friends who just want to not think about food anymore. In fact, that was the whole premise of one of the companies I started. It was like a longevity DoorDash, basically, where you get super healthy, organic, vegan, locally sourced meals delivered every week, stacked in your fridge, and you wouldn't have to think about it anymore, right? And so a microdose of retatrutide can accomplish that. That's about 0.5 milligrams per week. For tirzepatide, that would mean 2.5 milligrams a week. Now you might ask, retatrutide or tirzepatide, what should I take? Well, you can try both. Tirzepatide already is FDA approved. Retatrutide will be. Then, less dopaminergic behavior is a very common side effect. There's studies showing that you actually scroll social media less. You have less cravings overall. And so I think that's pretty cool, pretty wonderful. In its extreme, the absence of desire can also lead to the absence of sexual lust or strife. But again, in the extreme, everything kind of goes south. When you take these peptides and you don't eat a lot, you might lose your muscle, so that's a real concern, and that's happened to many. You might suffer from just like fatigue, which happens when you have low blood sugar. So those are common things you can experience. Same with nausea, maybe headache, vomiting. But it's truthfully not that bad. Your body gets used to it. Just give it some time. No medical advice. That's the history of GLPs, by the way. So exenatide and liraglutide and a couple of others before were actually the first GLPs, not semaglutide. The problem is, it's really, really annoying to take them. Like, you had to take them daily, like do daily injections. Or they were also not as effective. Like, they only led to like pretty moderate weight loss. So the real blockbuster drug was when post-COVID, 2021, all of Hollywood got on the shortly before approved semaglutide train. And I feel like everything either spreads from Hollywood or from San Francisco or from New York into the world. And so that's when we got on this hype train for peptides. And for personalized health, I'm going to talk a bit more about why I'm passionate about this, but let's make sure you guys know the basics first. And then tirzepatide and retatrutide followed, both developed by Eli Lilly, making it the first $1 trillion biotech company ever. That's how impactful these are. And now they're actually already working on another drug, which you only have to take once a month. So this is the overview of what the GLP does in your body. They generally stimulate insulin and suppresses glucagon, like especially with retatrutide. You can call it a GLP-3 because it actually acts on 3 receptors. Here. On the GLP-1, the GIP, and the glucagon receptor, your body naturally already uses GLP-1 to tell you that you're full. But it only lasts for about a minute or two in the body. Whereas retatrutide binds to the GLP-1 receptor for way longer, has a half-life of about a week. So that's why you're feeling fuller. Just go back. It also actually activates satiety directly in the hypothalamus in your brain, which is also incredible. Now, there are concerns, and especially when you talk to people who are a bit more conservative, they remember the bad news and the negative side effects they read about. So you have to take them for life. That's an interesting one, right? 55% of people who take a GLP stop taking them because of costs. 55%. That's actually quite a lot if you think about it. But that doesn't really make this argument more profound. Isn't it the same with everything? If you start doing a workout routine or eating healthy and you go back to a shit routine, you're also going to gain weight again, right? So it's a bit of a generic argument. There are unknown side effects. I mean, it's been around in large-scale human trials for 10 years. How long do you want to wait? How much longer do you want to wait until something magical appears out of nowhere? To be sure that there are no crazy negative side effects. And lastly, on quite the contrary, we're discovering so many positive side effects. Almost on a weekly basis, I read a new research study on GLP-1s helping with fertility, male fertility. I mean, if you're leaner, of course, your testosterone increases for various reasons. There's an estrogen and aromatase-specific mechanism, and it helps you, again, it helps you be less addicted to alcohol. It's the more we understand GLPs, the more we recognize what other amazing things they do in the body. Also, shout out to Cremieux, who we hosted at the California Peptide Club, who's really big into demographics. You know him. Anyone else here know Cremieux from Twitter? Fantastic, great guy. And so he provided the statistic amongst a few others. And also, there's a natural weight loss regain that you have after finishing a diet. And that's not statistically different from having that effect with Ozempic. Ozempic being the first GLP-1, just as a reminder. Then as I said, less heavy drinking, boosting testosterone. Oh yeah, okay, great. Yeah, that's it on GLP-1s. Now, before we move on, I actually want to make this a bit interactive. Does anyone have a GLP-1 specific question we can chat through here quickly? Otherwise, we also have time to chat afterwards or one-on-one. No? Great, okay. Let's move on. BPC 157. As you can tell, I like my show of hands questions. Who here knows BPC 157 or has heard of it? Wow, okay, I'd say this is 60% of the room. That's actually quite cool. Now, this might just look like words and letters to it. Or letters and numbers to it, sorry. So I'm going to give you a bit of help remembering it. BPC nowadays stands for Body Protection Compound. Originally, it was named after the Croatian research group, a researcher who discovered that peptide. And actually, it was originally found to be BPC, which is a protein that us humans and dogs produce naturally. Isn't that great? And it's actually quite funny because your favorite, could you hold this for a moment? Yeah. Your favorite pseudoscience, or not pseudoscience, but popular science researcher, Pavlov, who you might know from the dog stimuli experiments. You have saliva coming out of your mouth when the dog hears the bell. I think it's a pretty common science experiment. Also, as a side gig, actually sold the gastric juices of dogs because they contain BPC. It's kind of wild. He had his own, I guess, early stage dropshipping business, or where he sold that stuff, and you can see how it's kind of disgusting. But that's why humans actually took dog gastric juices for gut health as well, because it contains BPC. Now let me just go back. I can also put this here. Now, what does it do in the body? Well, in contrast to the GLP-1, that has a very specific target, it literally says in the name, what's the target is, BPC is systemic. And it's so wild because we don't exactly understand how it works yet. What it does, though, it helps with tendon healing. If you have a torn ACL, it might help. If you have an injury after, I don't know, a soccer game. So it's like insanely cool, and it even overrides or still helps after you've taken corticosteroids that are usually actually reducing any sort of healing functions in the body, and BPC still works, which is like a miracle to many scientists. Yeah, human data. That's also a thing that we always hear. For GLPs, we have extensive human data. Tens of thousands of people went through the studies. And for BPC, there's so much anecdotal data, and yet there's only one human research study that was done in Croatia. And now, Americas, of course, this center where all the science needs to happen, for it to be acknowledged. Right? That's how we think. That's our Americanocentric worldview. Now, the problem is only ever the abstract of that paper was published, and it was only 40 patients. But we have so much positive data in mice. We have so much anecdotal data and 0 reported adverse side events. So if you're thinking about accelerating your own healing, also after like a very strenuous workout, like if you do hit leg day every once in a while and you're like, I need to recover quickly because I'm also playing sport with the girls, the boys next day, then BPC can be like really, really helpful. But yeah, also the good news is now with all the hype, the NHS and philanthropists are funding more studies. It's actually quite incredible. And I know many of you care about science, so we see people like design studies and fund it with as low as like around $100,000, which is going to be super incredible. So I'm actually very stoked also for that reason that we finally get some more human data. Okay. It also comes in oral form now. Lastly, let's do quickly GHKCU. This is an example of someone taking GHKCU. So you can either inject it or apply it orally. But make sure when you source it that it has a high concentration. And it's helpful when it's actually blue, because copper is blue. And usually we don't have lots of insight in what the manufacturer actually puts into the peptide. Also, please don't inject into your face. It's going to give you scars. And yeah, you can stack it with other healing or systemic peptides that help you just like get this glow look, like people actually have a more shiny face. It's quite miraculous. And as you can tell, I'm also taking a bit of like the scientist approach here, but I think we can skip over that due to time. There's a couple more stacks you might want to have a look at later.
You can describe them, just keep it with it.
All right, cool. So mitochondria. As you know from high school biology, the mitochondria is... Oh my God, that was so much better than expected. Exactly. So what you want to do first, if you're taking peptides, what you want to do first is you want to use MOTS-c to actually repair how your mitochondria function, high level, and then SS31 to get the engine revving faster. There's the whole growth hormone area. And growth hormones are a bit of an interesting area. Unless you take like directly HGH, human growth hormone, which is, by the way, illegal in the United States, and was used, for example, for Messi. So he grew from 6'2" to, I think he was projected to be 5'2". Now he's 5'5" or something, 5'6". So it used to be used for some children. But apart from these, it's not as dangerous as people make it think. You want to cycle these growth hormone secretagogues. Now, what's a secretagogue? A secretagogue means that it prompts your own body to secrete more growth hormone or prolong the already existing release of growth hormone. Now, growth hormone grows everything. So people might see, oh, this strange brown spot is also getting larger. That's kind of concerning. Or if you have cancer, it might also help the cancer cells spread more quickly. Tesamorelin here. Many of these have been around for like many, many years in the bodybuilding community. And the bodybuilding community has like literally like a basically non-existing risk profile, right? Like, so they've been experimenting a lot, and bro science has brought us a long way. Tesamorelin is approved for visceral fat removal. So when I did my DEXA scan, I actually had 0% visceral fat. And visceral fat is the fat around the organs, can be dangerous in aggregate. So it's really cool. Also, that stuff makes you really hungry, so use it during a bulk. And then lastly, focus. I mentioned that already. Bit of Cmax, C-lung in the nose. Injecting works too, but takes like 15 days until you make the aggregate effect, so many try the nasal spray. Alrighty. Now, these are a couple of friends or famous people in the space that if you want to consume our content, I can highly encourage you to look at what these people are providing to the world completely for free. Now, as a last quick outlook, what does the future hold? So we're just getting started in terms of taking our health into our own hands and escaping the pharma small molecule market and becoming very empowered. And it's only going to get better from here. So I'm fortunate enough to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in the space who are developing novel form factors. Just had a founder, Koshla back from Canada at the house, and she gave me a piece of terzepatide chocolate, which is interesting. Now, if you listened, you might remember, wait, doesn't that get digested in the body? Well, in theory, yes, but it's surrounded by the lipids and the fats, which seem to be somewhat protective, and I could feel the effect. So sometimes it just works, and I haven't found out why. It shouldn't work. Also, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have released pills. They're less effective, might make you more nauseous, but are at the same time also so much easier to take. Secondly, novel delivery mechanisms. A friend of mine is developing a way to, through algae, deliver the peptide and protect it from the gut. Thirdly, personalized medicine. Imagine if a company, also run by another friend of mine, superomi.com, is able to sequence your whole proteome and give you hyper-personalized peptide recommendations. How crazy cool would that be? Then I mentioned the research studies that are happening. Super excited for that. Use Michael's platform to bet on them if you can. And also, lastly, more research around peptides in women, which is even more sparse than for men. And it's way more complex because of the menstrual cycle and other hormonal effects that are already happening and that peptides might, surprisingly, intervene with. If anyone cares about this, a good friend of mine wrote a long article on peptides for women. Super, super excited. But it's also very early stage research. Great. Now, Michael, how are we looking on time? Injection, no time?
Do it, but
Keep moving. We don't have, okay, do people actually want to see how this works, or is it okay. No. Okay, I won't use the microphone.
Here, I got you.
Does someone want to help me hold things? You want to?
I got it.
You want to come? Oh, you got it? Okay. Yeah, I usually have a table, so this is going to be interesting.
What do you take?
So,
Actually, here, I'll hold
Yeah.
the mic, you do it.
yeah. Or maybe, yeah, if you can just hold this.
Yeah.
So first of all, first step is get the bacteriostatic water into the peptide vial. So you have to buy this syringe. Actually, you can get it from Amazon. And I like to get 3 milliliter syringes.
Ow.
Now this won't go into your body. Don't be worried. And then, let's say you want to add 3 milliliters of water to your peptide later on. What you do first is you sterilize the vial. Then you pull it out to the amount that you actually want to inject later into the vial. You plug the needle in. And then first, for all the physicists, you will understand why. You inject the air in, and it's way easier to afterwards pull out the water. Usually it's there we go. Okay, so this is a new brand I haven't used before. And as you can see, it doesn't really get the water in as easily. So let me just give this one more try. And otherwise, we shall proceed with a bit less water, which also works. All right, here we go now. All right. By the way, how much water you mix it with is not as fundamentally important. We're going to go for exactly a milliliter now. And then we're taking a second alcohol pad to actually reconstitute it. So we're taking the powder, Ritter True Type. We are removing the cap. Then we are wiping this here. And then slowly, we're pushing this in, and you're going to see that it's actually getting sucked into the vial. Let me see if I can show it. Gets sucked into the vial quite quickly once there's... Damn, and I don't even have to do anything. It
So
gets
it's
sucked in.
negative pressure in there?
Yeah, there's a bit of negative pressure in there. Ta-da. And then you just roll it a bit. Don't shake it. Ritter True Type is surprisingly stable, but something like IGF-1 LL3 is actually really, really unstable. And so you want to make sure that you just gently roll it between your fingers. Now, I'm going to put this down, but you want to put the cap back on. And then, for the injection, you take yet another alcohol swab. Lots of alcohol swabs. It's getting expensive. And you take a different needle. You take a 100-unit or 50-unit syringe. That's way, way smaller. I don't know. Now, you of course don't want to use the side that was on the floor, but the good thing is you can open this up. All right. Actually, yeah. It's the last one I have, so I guess if I die, then, Alrighty. So you remove both caps. It fell down again, by the way. That's why.
There's one behind you. Use the top side of this one.
I'll grab one from my backpack, actually. This is probably better. You mind?
Proper disposal of this also.
I don't want to be in a New York Times article, right? Like, this is not a good look.
There'll be a video. All this will be on video. We have the slides, so don't worry. I know we got a lot of questions about that, so we'll send out the link to that.
All right. We want to find a bit of fat around here. You make sure it's all kosher. Then I've already disinfected the top here. And then you can just hold it gently a bit. And now this is going to be very potent, so I'm adjusting the dose. We're not going to talk about dosing for now. But I'm basically doing my weekly dose here. Then you should be able to see that slowly here, peptide comes out. It's in here, liquid. And this is actually the actual injection is the easiest part. It's just so smooth. And in you go. And that's it. Now, that's it from my side in terms of content. I'm going to leave one slide up if you want to join, or more like collectively start, the New York Peptide Club. Then scan this, and we can chat also offline, or actually online is what you call it. So yeah, thanks so much for coming out. Thanks so much, Mike, for putting this on. We do questions. Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, so we're gonna do this quick. So who has a question? Okay, pass the mic back, but keep it short and keep your answers short.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pass it back.
I can tell that you're already pretty ripped. I'm curious why you take ribs.
Ooh, that's a good question. So I have my own health journey where I suffered from super low testosterone. It was in the bottom 1% of men. And so only through enclomiphene, new lifestyle changes, diet, and also peptides, I was able to put on muscle in the longest time ever. If you saw me in November, I looked like a pancake. I was so bloated and like came out of my last bulk. And then retatrutide helped me slim down again naturally.
Just pass the mic.
I have a very quick
Yeah.
question. So you mentioned oral PPC.
Yes.
From where?
Barrier, Barrier. Good friend of mine invested in the company. It seems to be really good.
So certain peptides, you can clearly tell the difference, BPC, right
Yeah.
now losing weight.
Yeah.
But with things that are more subtle, like maybe a mitochondrial focused one,
Yeah.
how do you decide if it's worth paying for your buck? Where there are things that are promising, but you can't necessarily tell yourself as well how well
Yeah.
it's working. So how do you decide what's worth the cash with all these promising things coming out?
That's a great question. Depending on the dosaging, you sometimes can't really. I think SS31 is a great example. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like I'm actually like constantly on like one espresso more than comfortable. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but some don't. And especially SS31 is really expensive unless you get it from China. Like you can easily spend $300 a week on SS31 at like study dosage. So tough one. Other ones that you might not feel as easily are, of course, MOTS-C. And then KPV is gut microbiome focused. And that just depends like how good your microbiome is already.
Do you still invest in like say the mitochondrial ones, or you're allowed
Yeah.
better?
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Do you think sites like IndiaMart or Sage?
Use the microphone. Use the microphone.
Do you think sites like IndiaMart or Sage?
Which markers?
IndiaMart.
Sorry, I can't.
NDMR, ADMR.
Use the microphone.
IndiaMart.
IndiaMart.
NDMR.
That sounds very, very. I mean, can I get like my chicken curry delivered as well? Like,
Okay, next question. Next question. We'll get you in the back next.
Why would one microdose like GLP-1s like retatrutide? Is it for the other for the non-weight loss reasons or weight loss?
yeah, exactly. Because you might just want to focus. You're at comfortable like 12% body fat already.
Pass the mic back to the guy in the back.
Is things like exercise, diet, and our supplements like important when taking the GLP-1s or rather honestly peptides?
100%, like 100%, especially to not get any muscle atrophy. You definitely also want to exercise.
Raise your hand if you have a question.
You probably know Martin Shkreli. He thinks BPC 157 probably does nothing. Do you think there's a chance it's all placebo effect?
No, I don't think it's placebo effect. But I've heard those voices, and it's hard for me. Like, he's not a clinician, right? Was he in the crypto space before? Or?
No, I mean, he was a drug investor. I think he knows pharma pretty well.
Yeah, interesting. I just find it hard to believe that the cumulative, like, anecdata from hundreds of doctors at this point in time could lie, and like people I've trusted who've tried it, and it's helped them heal like their own torn triceps, which usually takes like
I mean,
months.
I almost had the placebo effect because I hurt my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I was about ready to do it, but I was like a little worried, so I waited a week. I changed my diet, and then like I fixed the shoulder. If I had ordered it, I would have been like, it's a miracle drug.
Okay.
You mentioned the fertility benefits for GLP-1s. It is my assumption that a lot of that comes from
Yeah.
reduction of obesity, not independently improving testosterone or fertility benefits.
That's very accurate. Yes, that's very true.
Have you been studying
Use the mic. Use the
sites
mic.
for halos?
For halos?
Yeah, halos. For like someone who's like experiencing halos.
Oh, yes, yes. So GHKCU also helps with halos actually, due to the like positive collagen effects. It pairs very well with red light. From my research, like having an actual red light cap and combining that with a like smaller dosage of minoxidil and finasteride works better. There's also a company called Roots that does customized hair loss protocols. I would be careful with finasteride, especially oral one, because it might nuke your testosterone.
Just pass the mic. Yeah.
What's your experience with LL37, or have you heard of it?
LL37. I don't think so. I'd love to learn more about it. I mean, there's about a couple thousand non-peptides, 7,000 non-peptides, so might be one of those, or I just haven't heard of it.
It was on your list above, and it's on the FDA meeting list.
Yeah, I will look into it.
How do you find physicians that have experience in these?
Ooh, you join the New York Peptide Club.
And do you know, as a follow-up, any training for physicians in this?
The ones I know just studied it themselves. There's one doctor, two doctors in New York I can directly also connect you with if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Of course.
Please, sure. Yeah. Do you have a question?
I know with BPC 5157 you said that some people are at greater risk and also that some of the risks are overstated, but I'm not sure, maybe I missed it. Do you have anything more compelling or maybe someone who's spoken to that a bit more? Because I don't really, I'm not sure I've heard something else.
So is the question how to convince skeptics of BPC? Okay, you're skeptic. So good news. Yes, I have a fact for you that might be helpful. For most drugs or interventions, we have an LD50 in animal models. LD50 measures what the necessary dosage is so that at least 50% of the mice, in most cases, die straight up. And we've injected mice with 1,000 times the normal dosage, and they still didn't die. Maybe that's helpful.
So assuming you don't have cancer or any pre-existing risk, should be right.
Also, yes, there has been some research on the general cancer effects, right? For BPC, it doesn't seem to be the case. Also for GLPs, the whole thyroid cancer thing is only happening in animal models and not in human models, and still it comes with a warning for thyroid cancer, but it hasn't been conclusive yet.
So peptides act on biological pathways that are heavily influenced by genes.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering why you wouldn't also recommend people invest a couple $100 to test the DNA.
Yeah.
Because typically what we're trying to do is address the symptoms of DNA mutations, methylation issues, brain fog, etc.
Yeah.
Hormonal discrepancies. So, you can also determine what peptides will work best for you based on your genetic mutations. So I'd like you to address that if you could maybe make that a recommendation to truly be able to have the gold standard of continuing care that we personalized health.
That's a beautiful question. I love this question so much. I just got my genome sequenced through sequencing.com, not affiliated. There's other services like Nucleus, which you might know. You might have seen the New York subway ads like Make the Perfect Baby a couple months ago. Sequencing.com is $400, $500. You get your whole genome, a 30x sequencing. Now, the problem is actually analyzing that. Because even AI models like Google's Alpha Genome 2 or the ARCS Institute, EVO, I think it's called, they don't have enough data to actually give very profound recommendations in most cases. But you can get things like, APO1B or stuff like that from there.
That's such a common genetic mutation, a vitamin D receptor mutation. 60% of the global population has that. They don't know it just by being able to read out.
Totally.
An average analysis from a company like 3x4, it's $250.
Yeah.
To tell you exactly what genes you should be looking at.
Yeah.
I'm a longevity scientist investor, key opinion leader.
Amazing.
Specifically, trying to make this the standard of care so we can do a better job of prevention.
Look, I would love that. I'd look at 3x4, 3x4. Amazing. I would totally look at that myself. But I haven't actually looked at my own genome, so rabbit hole to come. Thank you so much.
What's your stack and how did you decide on it? How do you recommend we get started?
Great question. My stack right now is very simple. It's Ritter, it's SS31, and it's BPC. Just because I'm cutting and I don't want to have the negative side effects of a growth hormone stack. It used to be SS31, BPC, ipamorelin, tesamorelin, IGF-1 LL3, and I think TB500, yes. So it was a very heavy and intense bulk stack. For the average person, GLP is a great start, and then it just depends on your goals, honestly. It's hard for me to give advice. on like a general stack. But for focus, yes, mod C SS31 is good. C max C lang.
I think you were sizing the gray market at 200 to 300 million today.
That's the last time I checked, or the last stat I found from like 2025 or 2024, yeah.
So if you have a positive FDA PCAP meeting next week, how big do you think the market could be in 2 to 3 years?
Great question. So in 2035, it's projected to more than double in size, like a 2.2. I think that's still an underestimate.
I'm not an expert by any means, so it's a very dumb question. Is your body the lab? And how do you test like every combination of every stack possible?
Oh, good question. Yeah. It's the simple questions that are the best questions in a way, right? Yes, your body is the lab. I get blood tests like every 2 months roughly. And I only like start taking new peptides once I don't try like all of them at once, which is also a bit of a lie because that's what I did in the beginning. But I had a physician who looked through my blood with me, through my blood markers with me, and together we designed the stack. And that's a good way to go about it.
Is there research into the stacks themselves, like if there's interactions between multiple like peptides together?
Unfortunately, not yet. I hope there's more of that, for sure.
How much do you spend monthly?
Right now, I don't really know because I bought so much from China and that I can just use, and I've tested it and it's good stuff. With my current stack, I would probably spend around $300 per month.
How much at your worst?
With all the stuff around, like probably 700. Yeah. But it was only for like 3-4 months.
Guy in the gold
I love all your questions, by the way. This is fantastic.
Who has a question? Raise your hand if you have one. Gold shirt. Okay.
It sounds like your bulk stack was mostly growth hormone secretagogues.
Yeah.
Right? What is your opinion on testosterone secretagogues?
Testosterone secretagogues, such as clomiphene. I'm a big fan of clomiphene. So for some context, the FDA approved clomiphene in women first, but it also has another component to it. I think it's called zuclomiphene, I could be wrong. That in man actually has androgenic effects and actually gives you nausea and makes you very moody. And then clomiphene is just the part that actually helps with the testosterone production. And it doesn't actually replace testosterone, but it prompts your pituitary gland, your hypothalamus prompts your pituitary gland to release more LH and FSH, which then signals your testes to produce more testosterone. So it's very gentle, and it doesn't have any long-term side effects. And in all transparency, I needed to take that because my T was so low because of stress, my system needed a restart. So big fan of clomiphene.
Hey, Joshua here. Thanks for coming out. One question I have for you is, it sounds like you're on 3 different things right now.
Yeah.
How do you think about traveling with them? If you have to take them weekly, you just reconstitute, and then you say, hey, I'm bringing this with me because I can't, do it and travel with it.
Yeah.
You throw it out, or how does that work?
Excellent question. You can travel with it when lyophilized easily. Once reconstituted, it depends on the actual peptide. My roommate has her retatrutide on the counter all the time, and it still seems to work for her. But you want to usually protect it from movement and from heat and from UV light. So those are the 3 things. Now what you can do, get a travel case on Amazon, get the lyophilized version with you, reconstitute wherever you are, and then inject. But for more fragile peptides, they might actually degrade. That doesn't make them bad, they're just less effective.
Got it. And one follow-up question: how do you feel about Clo and some of those where they're combined into one vial? You think they're just as potent? Do you pro or con? I've seen some people say it dilutes it, or you should take them one at a time and not a combination in one vial.
Great question. Some peptides you shouldn't take together, especially GLP-1s because they're so intricate. You shouldn't mix with anything. And especially, I keep going back to IGF-1 because it's so fragile. Now, some peptides you can actually tag together. I don't recall which one specifically, or if the blend of these 3 or 4 would degrade the effectiveness. But it depends on the peptide.
The testosterone ones you mentioned, do you have to worry?
Not a peptide, but the better.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I wasn't sure if there's long-term ramifications to your body being able to produce testosterone the same way if someone takes TRT.
Yeah.
Or if that's not the case.
Yeah, very different from TRT. TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, is exogenous testosterone, right? And so I've talked with my longevity physician who's been in the space for 40 years, and he says there are no long-term negative side effects known.
Which one was it again?
And clomiphene, you mean? Yeah.
Hi. So with like your stack, how are you tracking everything? Like, is it in a spreadsheet? And then are you plugging it into like, are you leveraging any AI or LLMs to keep it to track this? And is it more, or is it like more intuition based?
Right now I can just do it based off memory. I used to actually go through the protocol that my physician sent me, just like as a PDF, and read through it every day again to make sure I'm on the right track. I could have used a peptide tracker, but they just have become popular in the last several months. People make good MRR with it, and some of them are actually good. So you can use that similarly to like Cull AI. There's now peptide tracker apps.
Sep.co, I think, or maybe that's
Sep.co.
the wrong.
There's a couple.
Anyone else have a question? Okay, raise your hand. There was final.
Wait, I was wondering. Sorry.
Go.
Wait, sorry. I might have missed the fragment of what someone else said, but I was also interested in the stability. And if would you be able to say more? Do they degrade because of just like denaturation or pure hydrolysis, or are there media to try to preserve them longer? And what's the kind of scale of stability over time? Like, are there super fragile ones and super stable ones? Yeah, just like stuff about that. Sorry if that's too big or.
You're asking like what the actual chemical or physical mechanism is, why they degrade or break apart?
Like why do they degrade and which are the most stable as opposed to most of them are?
Good question. I would assume it's like molecular binding ability, and that like any sort of physical impact makes them break apart. Most stable ones are the longest, most complex ones. Generally the ones that are manufactured by big pharma. Less stable ones are, yes, I keep going back to IGF-1 LL3. BPC is fairly stable. Mitochondrial ones are fairly stable. Yeah, but I wouldn't know how to rank them within the like okay-ish stable category. It's a good question. Yeah, just keep them refrigerated. I have my own peptide fridge at home in the bathroom. It's very cute, and they're safe.
Okay, let's pass the mic up here. We have a couple. Anything in the back? All right, pass the mic up.
Yeah.
Are you taking anything else that's not a peptide?
Supplements? That's a whole
Sort of like the Dalafil or L-carnitine?
No, I'm not.
Okay. No prescriptions?
No, I mean enclomiphene is prescription only.
Okay.
So yes, that thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you switch to branded registry guide once it's approved? Why or why not?
I think it's going to be too expensive. So Eli Lilly got the compounder, the research use only people together, and basically said, look guys, we don't really care what you're doing there, like on the gray market, as long as you stay away from retatrutide. And so we will have to see if they can enforce that. But depending on the price, I'll support the people I know in the space who source incredible peptides already, and I don't need this to be made by Eli.
What price are you getting?
Right now I'm getting it at $10 per 10 milligram vial. And usually you'd pay like 90 per 10 milligram vial on like a research use only website.
I feel like most doctors wouldn't recommend it for themselves or patients unless it's actually approved or they're recommending studies to indications.
Yeah.
Do you actually see that changing in consume in the near future?
I think the way a good doctor acts is like having a conversation with the patient, like informing them, hey, here's the data, here's what I've seen, here's the side effects, or if there are side effects. But, almost every drug has side effects, if you think about that, even the approved ones. And so, is that changing anytime? I think doctors want to educate themselves more, which is, by the way, also an interesting business opportunity, like doing consultation for doctors to integrate peptides into their practice. Kind of depends on what's happening July 23rd, 24th.
Are there doctors in your biohacking group or your group back in California?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I love that there's so many questions. That's fantastic, guys.
Yes, I'm kind of curious. For people that take like ADHD medication like Ritalin and Adderall, how does that play into if they're interested in taking peptides?
That is also a fantastic question. So I know specifically about how ADHD medication and BPC work together. So actually, BPC reduces the effect of some ADHD medication, and then of course you might get upset because I'm like, I can't work anymore. What the fuck? So that's the one example I know.
With these drugs, obviously the focus is on the positive effects, but are there a lot of contraindications that people don't really understand? Or like if you take certain peptides for a longer period of time, does it change how your body actually processes these things themselves? Does it weaken receptors, etc.?
For some of it does. IGF-1 LL3, which stands for, like, GF is always growth hormone factor 1, I think. And so there's a mild decrease in the growth hormone that you produce yourself, but it's not as severe as, say, you going on TRT and your body almost completely stops producing testosterone and your sperm count goes down to like 10%. Now, is there like a fatigue of certain receptors? For GLP, yes, your body gets used to it, and you need to increase your dosage over time to actually have the same effect. Now, what you can do, a friend of mine does this, he's microdosing 0.5 milligrams on, 0.5 milligrams off, bi-weekly ritual, right? And this way, it works quite naturally for him.
All right. Oh, wait, one more. Go ahead.
Last one.
Just yell
Stay
it,
for the last
yell it,
one.
Yell it.
Oh, I'm trying to wrap my head around what more mainstream adoption of peptides would look like. So
Form factors. Food.
so I'm just thinking, like, with the FDA committee coming up, like, how consequential is that? If they say yes, like, what happens?
Yes.
Then on it, if they say no, what happens?
Great question. So RFK wants to get them categorized as actually supplements. And the impacts of that are, as you can imagine, kind of wild and kind of widespread. The whole compound, like the whole research use only space, might see like a race to the bottom, and compounding pharmacies would probably take over because they have like the brand and reputation advantage. And then we're going to see like more CPG brands, chocolates, gummies, powders, especially for the GLPs and BPCs of the world, to sell them to the masses.
Just to zoom out for a second, what do you think about longevity in general? Since you're at the frontier as an expert, right? Like, people always like predict like, oh, the next generation is going to live to a so-and-so age.
Yeah.
So with the help of peptides, what do you think its role is on longevity?
Yeah, great.
What's your guess?
Fantastic. I think peptides are no miracle drug at all. They help with already existing processes, but if you actually look at the mechanism, there's nothing that's going to help you fundamentally live longer than 120. I do believe, though, that through like the advent of AI and protein folding models that have like just become so much better, we're just starting to scratch the surface. And there are people I respect who say that we might be, and when I mean we, I mean like millennials, Gen Z, might be a generation who can live like to 200 years or might not even die. Can I assess if that's right or wrong? I'm not the right person to ask for that. But I think longevity trend is just starting because it's the biggest trend in life. Like, you want to stay alive to experience everything else, right? Of course.
Amazing. Well, Julius is around after.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you, guys.